Good morning students, this is Priya, your science teacher. In this video I will be explaining you the chapter number 16 of your NCERT textbook, that is light. It is a very interesting chapter to understand. In this chapter we will learn about the light, the lateral inversion of light, the reflection of light, the types of mirror, that is the concave and convex, the types of reflection, that is regular and irregular reflection, the multiple reflection, the applications of multiple reflection, human eye and its defects. So this is a very important and very interesting chapter to understand. So let us start with the definition of light. That what is light? Light, it is basically a electromagnetic radiation within a certain portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. For example, sunlight. The word, it usually refers to the visible light which is visible to the human eye and it is responsible for the sense of sight. So we can say that the sunlight, it is composed of an electromagnetic radiation with a portion of electromagnetic spectrum. Next is the lateral inversion. What is lateral inversion? As the name indicates, that when the left appears to be right and the right appears to be left, this we can call as lateral inversion. Let us understand this with the help of an activity. If you are the object, stand in front of a mirror and observe yourself in mirror, you are identical to the image as seen in the mirror, because the mirror that you are standing in front of is a plane mirror. In case of a plane mirror, the image formed is erect and is same size as the object. You are the object and the image that is formed inside the mirror, it is the image. But there is one difference in your left and right. When you move your right hand in the image, it seems as if your left hand is moving. This is called the lateral inversion, where left appears to be right and right appears to be left. So this is the concept of lateral inversion. The next is the reflection that occurs through the spherical mirrors. As you all know that all types of mirror, whether it is a plane mirror or whether it is a spherical mirror, they all show reflection. So how this reflection will look like in case of spherical mirror? If the reflecting surface of a spherical mirror is a concave or it is inwards, then we can say that it is a type of concave mirror. And if the reflecting surface of a spherical mirror, it is outwards, then we can say that it is a convex mirror. So in this diagram you can see that a part of a spherical mirror is there. This is a part of a spherical concave mirror and this is the part of a spherical convex mirror. The center of the curvature is the center of the sphere, because mirror is generally a sphere in shape. So it is the center of the sphere, or we can say that is the center of the circle. We can say that it is the center of curvature of a concave mirror. The focus is the point where all the light rays they meet, or where all the light rays they are emitted. The line that we that passes through the center of this concave mirror, it is called the principal axis. So the concave mirror, when light rays falls on a concave mirror, they generally meet at the point known as focal point, because it converges all the light rays at one point. So we can say that a concave mirror is a type of converging mirror because it converges all the light rays. In case of a convex mirror, when the light rays falls on this mirror, then these light rays they are reflected away from the focus point. So we can say that convex mirror, it diverges all the light rays. That's why it is known as the diverging mirror. The next is the uses of spherical mirrors. First is the use of convex mirror. Convex mirror, it is generally a diverging mirror. So it is mainly used in case of a car. The side mirror, it is made up of the convex mirror. So you may have noticed that there are labeled with the safety warning to warn the drivers that the convex mirror is generally of distorting effects, and actually the vehicle that is behind you, it is far away than they appear. So this is the use of convex mirror. Concave mirrors, these are generally used to magnify the images. That's why doctors they use the concave mirror for examining the eyes, ears, nose and throat. Concave mirrors, they are generally used by the dentist to see the enlarged images of your teeth. The reflectors of torch, headlights of cars and scooters are concave in shape because the concave mirror is used in these objects. So these are the uses of convex and concave. The next is the laws of reflection. We have seen the reflection in plane mirror, spherical mirror. The reflection is different in case of plane mirror and different in case of spherical mirror, but the laws of reflection are same for all. ठीक है, as you can see in the diagram that this is the plane mirror. If a light rays fall on a surface of mirror, then it gets reflects always. If it strike a smooth surface, then the light rays always reflect. With the help of this diagram, you can understand that the lower surface is the plane mirror, and the light ray falling on this surface is called the incident ray. This ray, it reflects back towards the atmosphere. So the light ray that comes back after the reflection, it is called the reflected ray. And the perpendicular line that or imaginary line that we draws perpendicular to the mirror, this line is known as normal, or the line perpendicular to the reflecting surface, it called the normal ray. Next is the angle of incidence. The angle between the incident ray and the normal ray is called the angle of incidence. This is the angle of incidence. The angle between the normal and the reflected ray is called as the angle of reflection. So there are two basic laws of reflection, that the angle of incidence is always equals to the angle of reflection in case of a plane mirror. This is the first law of reflection. The second law of reflection is that the incident ray, the reflected ray and the normal, they all lie in the same plane. They all lie in the same plane. I hope you have understand these laws of reflection. So let us understand the types of reflection that occurs in smooth surfaces and the rough surfaces. There are basically two types of reflection, that is regular reflection and irregular reflection. The laws of reflection are valid for all the reflection from all the shiny surfaces. Thus, the angle of incidence has to be equal to the angle of reflection in each case. It is just that the rays reflected from an irregular surface or a rough surface, they are unparalleled. Because when the rays, they reflected from a plane surface, they are not parallel. The reflection is known as the irregular reflection. Like you can see in the diagram, this is the rough surface. When light rays fall on the rough surface, they are parallel to each other, but when they are reflected back, they are not parallel to each other. Thus this type of reflection is known as irregular. But in case of regular reflection, the reflection of light rays from a smooth surface like that of a plane mirror is called a regular reflection. In this case, the incident ray, they are parallel to each other when they fall on a smooth surface. They remain parallel to each other when they are reflected back. This type of reflection is known as regular reflection. This type of reflection that occurs on a smooth. The next is the concept of multiple reflections. To predict the path of the incident ray, for this case we need to apply the laws of reflection again. However, like you can see in the picture, when two mirrors are placed at an angle, the rays of light are reflected multiple times through them. Like the image of the image of one mirror can act as an object for the second mirror, and the image of second mirror can act as an object for the one mirror. So for instance, when the two mirrors are set parallel focusing each other, they will create the illusion what the image of the object will repeat forever. So this is an example of a multiple reflection. In case of multiple reflection, the number of images are formed depending on how many types of mirrors you. The next, it is a kaleidoscope. Like you can see in your real life, the kaleidoscope is based on the principle of the multiple reflections. It also uses the multiple reflection through mirrors to form these beautiful types of patterns like you can see in the. Next is the sunlight and its color. Sunlight is basically, it is a white light, but when you observe a rainbow, it is composed of 7 lights. So this phenomena, this is known as the dispersion of light. This you can perform in your home, like very simple activity. You can use a white sheet and you can use a prism, and you can pass the sunlight through them. You can observe the 7 different patterns, that is consist of violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red colors. This is generally occurs basically on the principle of the dispersion of light. During the rainy season you can see rainbow, because in this case the raindrops, they act as a prism and they split this white light into 7 different colors, which is called the dispersion of light. So these are some important phenomena that we experience in our daily life. Next we will study the structure of the human eye, that how human eye reflects the light of an object that falls on it and how it percepts the. This is the structure of a human eye. The human eye is as you all know that it is a sense organ. It helps in seeing different objects. The light that is reflected from the different objects enters our eyes, and thus we can see things around us. It is a very important organ, so understanding its structure is also very important. Our eye, like you can see in the picture, it is embedded in an eye orbit. Okay, the outer layer of eye is known as sclera. In the inner part, posterior part of the eye, the outer layer of eye is known as sclera, and in the posterior part of this eye, the outer layer is known as choroid. Our eye mainly consists of a transparent layer which is known as cornea. After that, behind the cornea, a lens is present that is used to see focus the objects, to focus the distance objects or the nearby objects. It depends on the amount of light that enters into our eye. Between the cornea and lens there is a muscular diaphragm called as iris. It contains a small black spot in between it, which is called the pupil. The size of pupil, it differs depending on the amount of light enters into it. The posterior part of the eye consists of retina, where the image formation takes, an optic nerve which sends the eye signal to the brain so that the image formation can take place in front of the retina. This is the structure of the eye. The human eye has nearly a spherical in shape and it is about an inch in diameter. The white portion visible from outside is the cornea. It is the transparent layer. Behind the cornea, a space is filled with a liquid which is known as the aqueous humor. The aqueous humor, further the aqueous humor, there is a crystalline lens which is present inside the eye. In between the aqueous humor and the lens is the iris, which is a muscular diaphragm which has a small hole in it known as the pupil. The pupil usually appears black and it controls the amount of light entering into the eye. So this is basically the structure of human eye. I hope you have understood. The next definition is the accommodation of the eye. Basically, the eye focuses on different objects by changing the radius of the curvature of the crystalline lens. The ciliary muscles, they helps to contract and relax the lens. These muscles, they relax to view the distant objects and they contract to focus on the nearby objects. This is known as the power of accommodation of the human eye. However, the muscles cannot be strained beyond a limit, and hence if the object is placed too close to your eyes or too far, then the image formed in the retina will be blurred. So the maximum far point of human eye is 25 centimeter. Beyond that we cannot see the objects, or beyond that the image that formed on our retina would be blurred. The next is the persistence of vision. What is called the persistence of vision? The image of an object that is formed on our retina, it does not vanish immediately. ठीक है, if we see an object, अगर हम किसी चीज़ को देखते हैं तो थोड़ी देर तक हमारी ब्रेन में उसकी इमेज बनी रहती है, because it stays for about 1/16 second in our mind or in our retina. This is called the persistent of vision. That's why any image that is flashed more than 16 images per second would be seen as a moving picture. That's why that जो movies और जो pictures हम देखते हैं, that is nothing but a flash of a moving pictures. So this property of eye is known as the persistent of. The next is the defects of human eye. Basically, according to your chapter, there are two basic defects of the human eye, that is myopia and hypermetropia. At times, our eye lens cannot focus even when the object is placed beyond the 25 centimeter. So some people cannot see nearby objects, but they can see clearly the distant objects. This defect is known as the hypermetropia. Some people, they can see nearby objects very clearly, but facing a problem viewing the far off objects. This defect is called as myopia. Thus, for such cases, the eye lens has to be corrected using another type of lenses, and the doctors ask you to wear the spectacles. So let us understand the difference between the myopia and the hypermetropia. Like you can see in the diagram, firstly understand what is myopia. Myopia is generally called as the near or the short sightedness, because in this type of defect a person can clearly visibility has to the nearby objects but cannot see far objects. But in case of hypermetropia, a person can see far objects but cannot see distant objects. A person can see far objects but cannot see nearby objects. That's why hypermetropia is known as the far sightedness. Like you can see in the picture, in case of myopia, the image is formed in front of the retina. The image formation, it takes place in front of the retina. But in case of hypermetropia, the image formation, it takes place behind the retina because of the eyeball. In case of myopia, the next difference between myopia and hypermetropia is that in case of myopia, the focal length of the lens, it decreases. That's why a particular person is able to see the nearby objects but unable to see the far objects. And in case of hypermetropia, the focal length of the lens increases. That's why a person is able to see only the far objects. The basic symptoms in case of myopia and hypermetropia is that in case of myopia, the blurred image of distant objects are visible, and in case of hypermetropia, the blurred image of near objects are visible. We can treat the myopia by affixing a concave lens to a particular person's eye, so that it can shift the image formation to the retina. And in case of hypermetropia, we can use convex lens so that it can shift the image from behind the retina to the retina in front of the retina, so that the image formation can be possible for the nearby objects. So these are some basic difference between the myopia and the last defect, that is presbyopia. It is a type of defect in which a person is unable to see the nearby objects as well as the far objects. So we can use both type of lens in these cases. For example, we can use a biconcave lens, a bifocal lens made of concave lens and a convex lens, so that a person can be able to see the nearby objects as well as the far objects. The next is that how can we take care of our eyes so that we can see, we will be able to see the nearby objects and the far objects. You should have regular checkup for your eyes. If there is any problem, you should go to an eye specialist or a doctor, and if advised, you should use suitable spectacles according to your power. Wash your eyes frequently with the clean water. Always read at the normal distance with vision. Do not read by bringing your book or by bringing your laptop too close to your eyes or keeping it too far. Always read under proper. So these are some precautions that you can take care of. The last concept is of Braille system. It is scripted for the visually challenged people. The Braille system, it is basically a method that is widely used by visually challenged people to read and write. It was devised in 1821 by Louis Braille, which is a blind Frenchman. The visually challenged people can feel the dots to identify the character written in the Braille system. This is your chapter number 16. I hope you have understood it very well. Thank you.